Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're late today because I had a very busy day. Please don't mind. I don't like to be late, but sometimes it's unavoidable. So I'm going to get right into the reading, and we'll continue to swim through the nectar of Caitanya-caritämrta, the river of nectar. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, again, poetically glorifying Sri Caitanya-caritämrta in the sweetest way. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Sound familiar? That's just what Prabhupada said. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. All right, we've reached the 121st verse of the Ädi-lilä, chapter 7, the glories of the Panchatattva. And in this chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enlightens the Mayavadi sannyasis in Varanasi or Benares. So he's now talking directly to Prakashananda Saraswati, explaining the Vedanta Sutra to him, right in the middle. Text 121. In his Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva has described that everything is but a transformation of the energy of the Lord. Shankaracharya, however, has misled the world by commenting that Vyasadeva was mistaken. Thus he has raised great opposition to theism throughout the entire world. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, in the Vedanta Sutra of Srila Vyasadeva, it is definitely stated that all cosmic manifestations result from transformations of various energies of the Lord. Shankaracharya, however, not accepting the energy of the Lord, thinks that it is the Lord who is transformed. He has taken many clear statements from the Vedic literature and twisted them to try to prove that if the Lord, or the Absolute Truth, were transformed, his oneness would be disturbed. Thus he has accused Srila Vyasadeva of being mistaken. In developing his philosophy of monism, therefore he has established Vivartavad, or the Mayavad theory of illusion. In the Brahma Sutra, second chapter, the first aphorism is as follows: Tad ananyatvam arambana shabdadibhyaha. Commenting on this sutra in his Shariraka Bhashya, Shankaracharya has introduced the statement Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadeyam from the Chandogya Upanishad 6.1.4 to try to prove that acceptance of the transformation of the energy of the Supreme Lord is faulty. He has tried to defy this transformation of energy in a misguided way, which will be explained later. Since his conception of God is impersonal, he does not believe that the entire cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the energies of the Lord. For as soon as one accepts the various energies of the Absolute Truth, one must immediately accept the Absolute Truth to be personal, not impersonal. A person can create many things by the transformation of his energy. For example, a businessman transforms his energy by establishing many big factories or business organizations. Yet he remains a person, although his energy has been transformed into these many factories or business concerns. The Mayavadi philosophers do not understand this simple fact. Their tiny brains and poor fund of knowledge cannot afford them sufficient enlightenment to realize that when a man's energy is transformed, the man himself is not transformed, but remains the same person. Not believing in the fact that the energy of the Absolute Truth is transformed, Shankaracharya has propounded his theory of illusion. His theory states that although the Absolute Truth is never transformed, we think that it is transformed, which is an illusion. Shankaracharya does not believe in the transformation of the energy of the Absolute Truth, for he claims that everything is one, and that the living entity is therefore also one with the Supreme. This is the Mayavad theory. Srila Vyasadeva has explained that the Absolute Truth is a person who has different potencies. Merely by his desire that there be creation, and by his glance, sa-aikshata, he created this material world. Sa-ashrijata. After creation, he remains the same person. He is not transformed into everything. One should accept that the Lord has inconceivable energies, and that it is by his order that and will that varieties of manifestations have come into existence. In the Vedic literature it is said, Satatvatonyata buddhir vikara it udaritaha. This mantra indicates that from one fact, another fact is generated. For example, a father is one fact, and a son generated from the father is a second fact. Thus both of them are truths, although one is generated from the other. This generation of a second independent truth from the first truth is called vikara, or transformation resulting in a byproduct. The Supreme Brahman is the Absolute Truth, and the energies that have emanated from him are existing separately, such as the living entities and the cosmic manifestation, are also truths. This is an example of transformation, which is called vikara, or parinama. To give another example of vikara, milk is truth, but the same milk may be transformed into yogurt. Thus, yogurt is a transformation of milk, although the ingredients of yogurt and milk are the same. In the Chandogya Upanishad, there is the following mantra, Aitad Atmyam Idang Sarvam. This mantra indicates that without a doubt, the entire world is Brahman. The Absolute Truth has inconceivable energies, as confirmed in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. And the entire cosmic manifestation is evidence of these different energies of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is a fact, and therefore whatever is created by the Supreme Lord is also factual. Everything is true and complete, Purnam, but the original Purnam, the complete Absolute Truth, always remains the same. Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya. Ishopanishad Invocation. The Absolute Truth is so perfect that although innumerable energies emanate from Him and manifest creations which appear to be different from Him, He nevertheless maintains His personality. He never deteriorates under any circumstances. It is to be concluded that the entire cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the energy of the Supreme Lord, not of the Supreme Lord or Absolute Truth Himself, who always remains the same. The material world and the living entities are transformations of the energy of the Lord, the Absolute Truth, or Brahman, who is the original source. In other words, the Absolute Truth, Brahman, is the original ingredient, and the other manifestations are transformations of this ingredient. This is also confirmed in the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. This entire cosmic manifestation is made possible by the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse it is indicated that Brahman, the Absolute Truth, is the original cause, and that the living entities, jivas, and the cosmic manifestation are effects of this cause. The cause being a fact, the cosmic manifestation and effects of this cause are effects of this cause. The cause being a fact, the effects are also factual. They are not illusion. Shankaracharya has inconsistently tried to prove that it is an illusion to accept the material world and the jivas as byproducts of the Supreme Lord, because in his conception, the existence of the material world and the jivas is different and separate from that of the Absolute Truth. With this jugglery of understanding, Mayavadi philosophers have propagated the slogan, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, which declares that the Absolute Truth is fact, but the cosmic manifestation and the living entities are simply illusions, or that all of them are in fact the Absolute Truth, and that the material world and living entities do not separately exist. It is therefore to be concluded that Shankaracharya, in order to present the Supreme Lord, the living entities, and the material nature as indivisible and ignorant, tries to cover the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He maintains that the material cosmic manifestation is mithya, or false. But this is a great blunder. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a fact, how can His creation be false? Therefore, Vaishnava philosophers say that the cosmic creation is not false, but temporary. It is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but since it is wonderfully created by the energy of the Lord, to say that it is false is blasphemous. Blasphemous. Non-devotees factually appreciate the wonderful creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is behind this material creation. Sripad Ramanujacharya, however, refers to a sutra from the Aitareya Upanishad 1.1.1. Atma va idam agra asit. Atma va idam agra asit, which points out that the Supreme Atma, the Absolute Truth, existed before the creation. One may argue, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely spiritual, how is it possible for Him to be the origin of creation and have within Himself both material and spiritual energies? To answer this challenge, Sripad Ramanujacharya quotes a mantra from the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1 that states, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat priyant yabhisang vishanti. This mantra confirms that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation, again re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is originally spiritual, and when he enters the spiritual world, or the body of the Supreme Lord, he still retains his identity as an individual soul. In this connection, Sripad Ramanujacharya gives the example that when a green bird enters a green tree, it does not become one with the tree. It retains its identity as a bird, although it appears to merge with the greenness of the tree. To give another example, an animal that enters a forest keeps its individuality, although apparently the beast merges with the forest. Similarly, in material existence, both the material energy and the living entities of the marginal potency maintain their individuality. Thus, although the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead interact within the cosmic manifestation, each keeps its... Let me read that again. Thus, although the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead interact within the cosmic manifestation, each keeps its separate individual existence. Merging with the material or spiritual energies, therefore, does not involve loss of individuality. According to Sri Ramanujapad's theory of Vishishtadvaita, although all the energies of the Lord are one, each keeps its individuality, Vaishishthya. Sripad Shankaracharya has tried to mislead the readers of the Vedanta Sutra by misinterpreting the words Ananda Mayo Vyasat, and he has even tried to find fault with Vyasadeva. All the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra need not be examined here, however, since we intend to present the Vedanta Sutra in a separate volume for the future translators of this movement. Gopi Puranadana Prabhu's students. Text 122. According to Shankaracharya, by accepting the theory of the transformation of the energy of the Lord, one creates an illusion by indirectly accepting that the Absolute Truth is transformed. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments that if one does not clearly understand the meaning of parinamavad, or transformation of energy, one is sure to misunderstand the truth regarding this material cosmic manifestation and the living entities. In the Chandogya Upanishad 6.8.4, it is said, San mulak saumyema praja sadayanta sayatana satpratishtaha. The material world and the living entities are separate beings, and they are eternally true, not false. Shankaracharya, however, unnecessarily fearing that by parinamavad, transformation of energy, Brahman would be transformed, vikari, has imagined both the material world and the living entities to be false and to have no individuality. This is very important. I'll repeat this sentence. I know these sentences are a little long and complicated. I'm trying to read them in a way that it's easier to hear. It's not easy. The material world and the living entities are separate beings, and they are eternally true, not false. Shankaracharya, however, unnecessarily fearing that by parinamavad, transformation of energy, Brahman would be transformed, vikari, has imagined both the material world and the living entities to be false and to have no individuality. By word jugglery, he has tried to prove that the individual identities of the living entities in the material world are illusory, and he has cited the examples of mistaking a rope for a snake or an oyster shell for gold. Thus he has most abominably cheated people in general. The example of misunderstanding a rope to be a snake is mentioned in the Mandukya Upanishad, but it is meant to explain the error of identifying the body with the soul, since the soul is actually a spiritual particle, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivangsho Jivaloke. It is due to illusion, Vivartavad, that a human being, like an animal, identifies the body with the self. This is the proper example of Vivarta, or illusion. The verse Atatvato Nyata Buddhir Vivarta it Yudarita describes such an illusion. To not know actual facts, and thus to mistake one thing for another, as for example, to accept the body as oneself, is called Vivartavad. Every conditioned living entity who considers the body to be the soul is deluded by this Vivartavad. One can be attacked by this Vivartavad philosophy when he forgets the inconceivable power of the omnipotent personality of Godhead. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains as he is, never changing, is explained in the Ishupanishad. Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. God is complete. Even if a complete manifestation is taken away from him, he continues to be complete. The material creation is manifested by the energy of the Lord, but he is still the same person. His form, entourage, qualities, and so on never deteriorate. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his Paramatma Sandarbha, comments regarding the Vivartavad as follows. Under the spell of Vivartavad, one imagines the separate entities, namely the cosmic manifestation and the living entities, to be one with Brahman. This is due to a complete ignorance regarding the actual fact. The absolute truth, or Parabrahman, is always one and always the same. He is completely free from all other conceptions of existence. He is completely free from false ego, for he is the full spiritual identity. It is absolutely impossible for him to be subjected to ignorance and fall under the spell of misconception, Vivartavad. The absolute truth is beyond our conception. One must admit that the absolute truth has unblemished qualities, that he does not share with every living entity. He is never tainted in the slightest degree by the flaws of ordinary human beings. Everyone must therefore understand the absolute truth to possess inconceivable potencies. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. No one can write like that. Text 123. We'll go a little bit longer tonight because we started late. Transformation of energy. Excuse me. Transformation of energy is a proven fact. It is the false bodily conception of the self that is an illusion. Purport. The jiva, or living entity, is a spiritual spark who is part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unfortunately, he thinks the body to be the self, and that misunderstanding is called vivarta, or acceptance of untruth to be truth. The body is not the self, but animals and foolish people think that it is. Vivarta, or illusion, does not, however, denote a change in the identity of the spirit soul. It is the misconception that the body is the self that is an illusion. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not change when his external energy, consisting of the 8 gross and subtle material elements listed in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, etc., acts and reacts in different phases. So I'd just like to make one little comment here. I heard Rabindranath Swarup give a very nice course on the Mayavad philosophy, and he explains how Jiva Goswami refutes this rope to be a snake example to tell the difference between Vivartavad and Parinamavad. It goes like this. The Mayavadis think that the soul is, putting on top of, or
Imposing?
No. When one sees when one sees a rope that is curled around like a snake, and the light is just right, one can see a snake. So they're putting the form of a snake on top of a rope. And that's what the Mayavadis call Vivartavad. They're superimposing, that's the word I was looking for. They're superimposing a form on something that doesn't have the form, or that's a different form. But here's the thing. Jiva Goswami points out that the same person will not look at a door and see the door to be a snake. In other words, there has to be a similarity in form in order for that illusion to take place. So the form of the snake has to be in the mind before it is superimposed on the rope. Otherwise it could not be superimposed. The idea has to already be there. So if the soul is superimposing forms on a formless state, that means the forms that they're superimposing must be there already in reality. Plus there has to be a similarity in the form before you can superimpose one idea onto the other. This proves, actually, that there must be form in the spiritual world in order for the soul to superimpose forms onto formless state. And that is called vivarta. The illusion is the fact that they're mistaking the rope to be a snake. They're not imagining that they're superimposing the idea, and that's the vivartavad. That's the illusion. It's a very simple logic. It has to be a similar form, similar form, and that form, the conception of that form, has to already be in the mind. Very simple. And it completely disentangles or disassembles the Mayavad philosophy. That's Jiva Goswami. Text 124. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is opulent in all respects. Therefore, by his inconceivable energies, he has transformed the material cosmic manifestation. Text 125. Using the example of a touchstone, which by its energy turns iron to gold and yet remains the same, we can understand that although the Supreme Personality of Godhead transforms his innumerable energies, he remains the same. 126. Although a touchstone produces many varieties of valuable jewels, it nevertheless remains the same. it does not change its original form. 127. If there is such inconceivable potency in material objects, why should we not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Purport. The argument of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described in this verse can be very easily understood even by a common man if he simply thinks of the activities of the sun, which has been giving off unlimited amounts of heat and light since time immemorial, and yet has not even slightly decreased in power. Modern science believes that it is by sunshine that the entire cosmic manifestation is maintained, and actually one can see how the actions and reactions of sunshine maintain order throughout the universe. The growth of vegetables and even the rotation of the planets take place due to the heat and light of the sun. Sometimes, therefore, modern scientists consider the sun to be the original cause of creation, not knowing that the sun is only a medium, for it is also created by the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Aside from the sun and the touchstone, there are many other material things that transform their energy in different ways and yet remain as they are. It is not necessary, therefore, for the original cause, the Supreme Personality of his different energies. The falsity of Sripad Shankaracharya's explanation of Vivartavad and Parinamavad has been detected by the Vaishnava Acharyas, especially Jiva Goswami, whose opinion is that actually Shankara did not understand the Vedanta Sutra. In Shankara's explanation of one sutra, Anandamayo Vyasat, he has interpreted the affix mayat with the word jugglery, that this very explanation proves that he had very little knowledge of the Vedanta Sutra, but simply wanted to support his impersonalism through the aphorisms of the Vedanta philosophy. Actually, however, he failed to do so because he could not put forward strong arguments. In this connection, Srila Jiva Goswami cites the phrase Brahma Puchcham Pratishta, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.5, which gives Vedic evidence that Brahman is the origin of everything. In explaining this verse, Sripad Shankaracharya interpreted various Sanskrit words in such a way that he implied, according to Jiva Goswami, that Vyasadeva had very little knowledge of higher logic. Such unscrupulous deviation from the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutra has created a class of men who, by word jugglery, try to derive various indirect meanings from the Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita. One of them has even explained that the word Kurukshetra refers to the body. Such interpretations imply, however, that neither Lord Krishna nor Vyasadeva had a proper sense of word usage or etymological adjustment. Thus the interpretations lead one to assume that since Lord Krishna could not personally sense the meaning of what he was speaking, and Vyasadeva did not know the meaning of what he was writing, Lord Krishna left his book to be explained later by the Mayavadis. Such interpretations merely prove, however, that their proponents have very little philosophical sense. Instead of wasting one's time falsely deriving such indirect meanings from the Vedanta Sutra and other Vedic literatures, one should accept the words of these books as they are. In presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is, therefore, we have not changed the meaning of the original words. Similarly, if one studies the Vedanta Sutra as it is, without whimsical and capricious adulteration, one can understand the Vedanta Sutra very well. Srila Vyasadeva therefore explains the Vedanta Sutra, beginning from the first sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha, in his Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Janmad janmad yasya yaton bayad, itaratarsh charteshu abhigya swarat. I meditate upon Him, Lord Sri Krishna, the transcendent reality, who is the primeval cause of all causes, from whom all manifested universes arise, in whom they dwell, and by whom they are destroyed. I meditate upon that eternally effulgent Lord, who is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and yet is fully independent. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows very well how to do everything perfectly. He is abhigya, always fully conscious. The Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita 7:26 that He knows everything, past, present, and future, but that no one but a devotee knows Him as He is. Therefore the Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, is at least partially understood by the devotees of the Lord, but the Mayavadi philosophers who unnecessarily speculate to understand the Absolute Truth simply waste their time. Text 128. The Vedic sound vibration, Omkara, the principal word in the Vedic literatures, is the basis of all Vedic vibrations. Therefore, one should accept Omkara as the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the reservoir of the cosmic manifestation. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 8:13, the glories of Omkara are described as follows. Om Ityaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran Yak Priyati Chajen Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. This verse indicates that Omkara, or Pranava, is a direct representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if at the time of death one simply remembers Omkara, he remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is therefore immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Omkara is the basic principle of all Vedic mantras, for it is the representation of Lord Krishna, understanding of whom is the ultimate goal of the Vedas, as is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaish Chisarvair Aham Eva Vedyaha. Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand these simple facts explained in the Bhagavad Gita, and yet they were very proud of being Vedantis. Sometimes, therefore, we refer, this is funny, sometimes, therefore, we refer to the Vedanti philosophers as Vedantis, those who have no teeth. V means without, and Danti means possessing teeth. The statements of the Shankara philosophy, which are the teeth of the Mayavadi philosopher, are always broken by the strong arguments of Vaishnava philosophers such as the great Acharyas, especially Ramanujacharya. Sripad Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya break the teeth of the Mayavadi philosophers, who therefore can be called Vedantis, toothless. As mentioned above, the transcendental vibration Omkara is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 13. Om Ityaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mam Anusmaran Yak Priyati Chajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. If one actually understands that Omkara is the sound representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether one chants Omkara or the Hare Krishna mantra, the result is certainly the same. The transcendental vibration of Omkara is further explained in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 17. Pitaham asya jagato mata dhata pitamaha vedyam pavitram omkara riksama yajra eva cha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. Similarly, the transcendental sound Om is further explained in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, verse 23. Om Tat Sad Iti Nirdesho Brahmanas Tri Vidak Smritaha Brahmanas Tena Vedaischa Yagyas Cha Vihitak Pura. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Throughout all the Vedic literatures, the glories of Omkara are specifically mentioned. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his thesis Bhagavat Sandarbha, says that in the Vedic literature, Omkara is considered to be the sound vibration of the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only this vibration of transcendental sound can deliver a conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. Sometimes Omkara is also called the deliverer, Tara. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the Omkara vibration, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Therefore, Omkara has been described by the great commentator Sridhar Swami as Tarankura, the seed of deliverance from the material world. Since the Supreme Godhead is absolute, His holy name and His sound vibration Omkara are as good as Himself. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the holy name, or Omkara, the transcendental representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has all the potencies of the Personality of Godhead. Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrar Pita Niyamatak Smarane Nakalaha. All potencies are invested in the holy vibration of the holy name of the Lord. There is no doubt that the holy name of the Lord, or Omkara, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. In other words, anyone who chants Omkara and the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, immediately meets the Supreme Lord directly in His sound form. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is clearly said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, personally appears before the chanter who engages in chanting the Ashtakchara, or 8-syllable mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. A similar statement in the Mandukya Upanishad declares that whatever one sees in the spiritual world is all an expansion of the spiritual potency of Omkara. On the basis of all the Upanishads, Srila Jiva Goswami says that Omkara is the Supreme Absolute Truth and is accepted as such by all the Acharyas and authorities. Omkara is beginningless, changeless, supreme, and free from deterioration and external contamination. Omkara is the origin, middle, and end of everything. And any living entity who thus understands Omkara attains the perfection of spiritual identity in Omkara. Omkara, being situated in everyone's heart, is Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 1861. Ishvarak sarvabhutanam riddhisher junatishtati. Omkara is as good as Vishnu because Omkara is as all-pervasive as Vishnu. One who knows Omkara and Lord Vishnu to be identical no longer has to lament or hanker. One who chants Omkara no longer remains a Shudra, but immediately comes to the position of a Brahmana. Simply by chanting Omkara, one can understand the whole creation to be one unit, or an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Idam hi Vishwam, Bhagavan Ivetaro, Yato Jagatstana, Nirodha Sambhavaha. The Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is Himself this cosmos, and still He is aloof from it. From Him only this cosmic manifestation has emanated, and in Him it rests, and unto Him it enters after annihilation. Bhagavatam 1.5.20. Although one who does not understand concludes otherwise, Srimad Bhagavatam states that the entire cosmic manifestation is but an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Realization of this is possible simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, Omkara. One should not, however, foolishly conclude that because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is omnipotent, we have manufactured a combination of letters, A-U-M, to represent Him. Factually, the transcendental sound, Omkara, although a combination of the three letters, A, U, and M, has transcendental potency, and one who chants Omkara will very soon realize Omkara and Lord Vishnu to be non-different. Krishna declares, Pranavak Sarvavedeshu, I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. Bhagavad Gita 7.8. One should therefore conclude that among the many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Omkara is the sound incarnation. All the Vedas accept this thesis. One should always remember that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord Himself are always identical. Abhinatvan Nama Namino. Since Omkara is the basic principle of all Vedic knowledge, it is uttered before one begins to chant any Vedic hymn. Without Omkara, no Vedic mantra is successful. The Goswamis therefore declare that Pranava, Omkara, is the complete representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have analyzed Omkara in terms of its alphabetical constituents as follows. Akarinochate Krishna Sarvalokaika Nayaka Karininochate Radha Makaro Jivavachakaha. Omkara is a combination of the letters A, U, and M. Karinochate Krishna. The letter A, Akara, refers to Krishna, who is Sarva Lokaika Nayaka, the master of all living entities and planets, material and spiritual. Nayaka means leader. He is the supreme leader, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Kata Upanishad 2.2.13. The letter U, Ukara, indicates Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Krishna, and M, Makara, indicates the living entities, jivas. Therefore, Om is the complete combination of Krishna, His potency, and His eternal servitors. In other words, Omkara represents Krishna, His name, fame, pastimes, entourage, expansions, devotees, potencies, and everything else pertaining to Him. As Caitanya Mahaprabhu states, this is that long purport I was telling you about. As Caitanya Mahaprabhu states in the present verse of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Sarva Vishwadhamma, Omkar is the resting place of everything, just as Krishna is the resting place of everything. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The Mayavadi philosophers consider many Vedic mantras to be the Mahavakya, or principal Vedic mantra, such as Tat Tvam Asi, Chandogya Upanishad 6.8.7, Idam Sarvam Yadayam Atma, and Brahmedam Sarvam, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 251. Atmaivedam Sarvam, Chandogya Upanishad 725-2. And Neha Nanasti Kinchana, Kata Upanishad 2.1.11. That is a great mistake. Only Omkara is the Mahabhakya. All these other mantras that the Mayavadis accept as Mahabhakya are only incidental. They cannot be taken as the Mahabhakya or Mahamantra. The mantra Tat Tvamasi indicates only a partial understanding of the Vedas, unlike Omkara, which represents the full understanding of the Vedas. Therefore, the transcendental sound that includes all Vedic knowledge is Omkara, Pranava. Aside from Omkara, none of the words uttered by the followers of Shankaracharya can be considered the Mahavakya. They are merely passing remarks. Shankaracharya, however, has never stressed chanting of the Mahabhakya Omkara. He has accepted only Tat Tvamasi as the Mahabhakya. Imagining the living entity to be God, he has misrepresented all the mantras of the Vedanta Sutra with the motive of proving that there is no separate existence of the living entities and the Supreme Absolute Truth. This is similar to the politician's attempt to prove non-violence from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is violent to demons, and to attempt to prove that Krishna is non-violent is ultimately to deny Krishna. Let me repeat that. Krishna is violent to demons, and to attempt to prove that Krishna is not violent is ultimately to deny Krishna. As such explanations of the Bhagavad Gita are absurd, so also is Shankaracharya's explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, and no sane and reasonable man will accept it. At present, however, the Vedanta Sutra is misrepresented not only by the so-called Vedantis, but also by other unscrupulous persons who are so degraded that they even recommend that sannyasis eat meat, fish, and eggs. In this way, the so-called followers of Shankara, the impersonalist Mayavadis, are sinking lower and lower. How can these degraded men explain the Vedanta Sutra, which is the essence of all Vedic literatures? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has declared, Mayavadi Bhashya Shunile Haya Sarvanash. Anyone who hears commentary on the Vedanta Sutra from the Mayavad school is completely doomed. As explained in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaish Chasarvayar Ahameva Vedya. All Vedic literature aims at understanding Krishna. Mayavad philosophy, however, has deviated everyone from Krishna. Therefore, there's a great need for the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world to save the world from degradation. Every intelligent and sane man must abandon the philosophical explanation of the Mayavadis and accept the explanation of Vaishnava Acharyas. One should read Bhagavad Gita as it is to try to understand the real purport of the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to His divine grace. And we'll stop our reading for tonight. Wonderful. Only 7 verses. 21, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 verses. Explains everything. All right. I know that this was a very intense reading tonight. Deep philosophical speculation, not speculations, but concepts. But if anything stuck out or you need clarification, please feel free to reflect.
First reflection. or question is from Doanitai Prabhu.
Dayalnitai, I knew it. You'd be first tonight.
Dear and respected Srila Guru Maharaj,
Flattering me first.
please accept my obeisance. All glories to your holiness. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your continued effort to strengthen our convictions about Krishna consciousness. Very possibly it has been mentioned and I missed it. Why exactly was it needed for Sankaracharya to so terribly mislead people? Also, were the Mayavadi sannyasis at Benares understood to be Jnana yogis? And a third inquiry,
One thing at a time.
First one.
First of all, why Shankaracharya should do that? He was Lord Shiva, acting under the instruction of Krishna. Krishna asked him to do that. Why? Because it was time for the Kali Yuga to progress, and in order for the Kali Yuga to progress, so that there would be more unwanted population, he explained the Mayavadi philosophy. Because what happens when you accept the Mayavadi philosophy, then you no longer have an authority to be accountable to. And that allows you to do whatever you want to do without any feeling of guilt or responsibility. If God is not a person, there is no ultimate authority, and therefore it allows the person to do whatever he wants. And what does the people want to do when they do whatever they want? They have sex. And from that illicit sex comes Varna Sankara. And from Varna Sankara comes chaos. It's not the Lord's desire that he wants the chaos. It's a response to the desire of the living entities as they live in the material world and become more and more entangled by the reactions of the material modes of nature. Naturally, it gradually devolves from mainly goodness to mainly passion to mainly ignorance, as the reactions of their activities in this material world develop and complicate everyone's lives. So this is Krishna's way of precipitating the devolution of the Kali Yuga, so that it will come to the point where he will come and clean the house fully, leaving only pure devotees, and there are a few of them, always, who start again the Satya Yuga. We can see a little of what's going on now with this pandemic. The human beings have been forced to go inside and stop acting, basically, in many places. And as a result, the material nature, which is no longer being polluted by them, is purifying itself, because that's its nature. The rivers are becoming cleaner, the air is becoming cleaner, without the human beings running around in their putt-putt cars and putting smoke into the air in so many ways. So Krishna is trying to enlighten the souls by showing them, by example, but unfortunately, this Mayavad philosophy has caused the conception in the minds of the conditioned souls to become distorted. So that's why. To fulfill the desires of the living entity, to be free in their sensual activities, so that the situation can degrade to the point where it calls upon the Lord to come and clean the house. It is for the benefit of the conditioned souls, ultimately. But that doesn't mean that their acceptance of the Mayavad philosophy means that they are going to become liberated by accepting the Mayavad philosophy. They become more and more degraded by accepting the Mayavad philosophy. Therefore, the point that Prabhupada made towards the end of the reading tonight was that this is the extreme, urgent need of conditioned souls right now. Lord Chaitanya came to give special concession and give the holy name of the Lord, even to people who don't deserve it. That's what I've heard from Prabhupada. What was the next part of his question?
Were the Mayavadi sannyasis at Benares understood to be Jnana yogis?
No. Jnana yoga means Bahunam Jnanmanamante, Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, Vasudevak Sarvamiti, Samahatma Sadurlabhaha. The Jnana yogi is one whose knowledge, philosophical knowledge, takes him to the conclusion that Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Bahunam, Janmanamante. After many, Bahunam means many. Jnanavam means births. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Jnanavam Mam Prapadyate. That knowledge that takes one towards the proper conclusion eventually brings one to the point, the conclusion that Vasudevam Sarvamiti, that Krishna is everything. Not that everything is one, and that Krishna doesn't exist. Samahatma Sadurlabhaha. Those great souls who think like that are very rare to see, very, very rare to find. Therefore, you should never blaspheme a devotee who is actually spreading Krishna consciousness. And speaking of that, we would like to, all of us, together pray for the health and well-being of Srila Bhakti Churu Swami, who has now contacted COVID-19 and is in hospital and ICU. He's doing better, but he's older. He's older than me. I'm going to be 74. He must be 75, 76 by now. And also means we have to be careful because he had performed a prime role in the Festival of Inspiration at New Vrindavan recently. So it's not a mistake to be careful. This is the reason why most of the temples have shut down temporarily, and why most of the preaching is being done through the internet. I don't know all the details of that, but we should pray for his rapid recovery, full recovery, because he's very important, very dear to Srila Prabhupada, and a great preacher, Krishna consciousness. Very dear to Srila Prabhupada, and therefore very dear to Krishna. And the third question was?
Do Mayavadis actually refer to themselves as Mayavadis, or do the personalists only call them as such?
You're going like this, constantly. I don't know what they can hear or not. Can you repeat it again?
Do the Mayavadis actually refer to themselves as Mayavadis, or do the personalists?
The Mayavadis refer to themselves as Narayana. The Mayavadi sannyasis think that as soon as one takes sannyas, he becomes Narayana. Therefore they think of themselves as God. As ludicrous as that sounds, that's what Mayavad philosophy is. They're just like an animal who's looking out into the desert and seeing water and running after the water because there's so much more water out there than in their little oasis that they're standing in at the moment. And they die running into the desert. They misinterpret it. And we'll see now the result of Lord Chaitanya's explanation of the Vedanta Sutra. They all become Vaishnava. They change, their hearts change by the influence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Something from Gopal Roy, Prabhu?
From Gopal Roy? Hey Gopal!
He says, Mayavadis would have no teeth left after reading these purports. For Srila Prabhupada is smashing them out with his strong, powerful, and masterful purports.
Yes, absolutely.
They will have to eat their meat, fish, and eggs through straws.
That's why they make the blenders. They can blend it all up and just drink it through straws. That's right, Gopal. Nice. But remember what Prabhupada said, as it was brought up, somebody brought it up the other night. You know, when some devotee asked Prabhupada, why do you speak so much about the Mayavadis? They don't have any Mayavadis here in the West. And then he said, I do because you're the Mayavadi, and why don't you read my books and find out how it is that you're Mayavadi? He means by that, he doesn't really mean he's a Mayavadi, it's a expression to teach him. It means that the Mayavad philosophy is everywhere. You look at any religion and you keep scratching deep enough and deep enough, you'll come to the fact that God is not a person. In India, in the West, in the Mideast, everywhere. So don't be in illusion that you're safe. Because the Mayavad philosophy is everywhere. And unless you're very firm and fixed in the proper understanding and can detect it when you hear it, it's very easy to get contaminated by the Mayavad philosophy in this world today. So you should be very careful. Thank you, Gopal.
Dhavanitai says, thank you, Sri the Guru Maharaj.
My pleasure. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
And then there's something from Rati Manjari.
Hmm.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tonight was yet another strengthening reading, nourishing our philosophical minds. I have a few questions. I have heard that Sripad Sankaracharya has ultimately told his followers to worship Govinda. Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudamate. Could you please tell us where and when he said this? Was this at the end of his life? What was the circumstance?
End of his life. But he also stated it in the Bhagavad Gita, in his introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. But that was one of the last statements he made. And what it means is, that full mantra, is that you fools, the jugglery of prefixes and affixes in Sanskrit grammar will not get you the absolute truth. You must chant the holy name of Govinda. And I'm sorry, I made a mistake. He didn't state that in the Bhagavad Gita preface, introduction, but he did say, Narayano paro vyaktat, that Narayana is transcendental to the material world. So Lord Shiva, he was a great devotee. He was doing this on the order of Krishna. So he's not at fault because he's acting on the order of Krishna. But it's his followers who gradually, by the tools that he gave them, by the tools of the philosophical concepts he gave them in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, they took the tools and they started juggling the grammar more and more and more and more and more, and they lost track of the fact that Shankaracharya originally said that Narayana is beyond the modes of nature in the material world, that he came before the material world.
Something more from Rati.
Mm-hmm.
Also tonight we heard that to interpret Bhagavad Gita in a non-violent way is wrong, because Krishna is violent with the demons. So to interpret the Gita like that is to deny Krishna. Yet in chapter 13 of the Gita, Lord Krishna teaches different items to be knowledge, and the third item he mentions is non-violence. How are we to reconcile these 2 points?
The non-violence that's described in the 13th chapter is knowledge. It's a description of the items that constitute knowledge. An individual soul should not be violent to another person. Real nonviolence means to stop the progression, the natural progression of the soul. If you take the body, the life of any soul prematurely, before he lives out his natural lifespan that's been destined to him by his karma, his prabdha karma, then that's violence. But Krishna is not violent. He appears to be violent. He's trying to change the sovereignty of the earth from demoniac leadership to divine leadership for the benefit of all the living beings on the earth. So violence is real, and violence is only persons who have knowledge of how to use violence properly for the protection of the citizens is allowed to use violence. And if a person does that under the instruction of Krishna directly, as Arjuna was doing in the Bhagavad Gita, then he is not, as Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of the Gita, one who thinks that the living being is a slayer or is slain is not in knowledge, for the self is slays not or is slain. So you can't prove that Krishna is non-violent, because he does use violence in order to eliminate the demoniac force or clean the atmosphere. There's always a need for that energy, because there are always conditioned souls who are criminal and therefore dangerous and destructive. Therefore there has to be law and order. That is knowledge, the proper application of violence in order to protect the innocent citizens. But the misuse of violence is what is being described if violence is misused, then we're not to be violent in that way. Hare Krishna.
Something more from Rati. She says, you said violence is real. To what extent should a devotee inform his or herself of the violent and demonic phenomena and activities that are going on in the world today?
You try to clean it by chanting Hare Krishna and explaining, learning this philosophy and explaining it to others. And if they can't understand, because Mayavadis don't understand, they can't understand, then you give them prasadam and you chant into their ear loud enough so they get some pious activity in their system, so that eventually they have some opportunity in the future to become devotees. That is ultimate non-violent activity. Lord Chaitanya doesn't come to commit violence. He comes to kill the demonic mentality. The ultimate violence is the Mayavad philosophy, because it causes the soul to commit spiritual suicide.
Says Jai, thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. You always push me to go a little further, Rati. Thank you. Okay, with your permission, blessings of the Vaishnavas, I will retire now. It's 35 after. And we started a little late, so this is fine. Didn't start until almost 20 after, so we still got an hour and 10 minutes in. We deeply appreciate your attentiveness that is reflected in your questions. You're all hearing very nicely. And please learn this philosophy, not just to be able to defeat Mayavadis, because mainly it's very difficult to defeat Mayavadis, but you'll keep yourself above the illusion of impersonal philosophy. Then you can help to save others. Therefore, this Caitanya-caritämrta is the perfect scripture. It describes everything, positive and negative, that one needs to know to approach the absolute truth with the proper mentality, with the proper understanding, proper conception. We have what keeps us in the material world is our material conceptions of what reality is. So these truths and these deep philosophical discussions in the beginning of Caitanya-caritämrta are meant to purify our hearts, so that when we do get to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and his associates, we can better appreciate them and better take advantage of their potency. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Brinda ki jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees, and we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, just like a rock. Hare Krishna.